Good evening. Thanks for joining us on India Business Hour. I'm Shireen Bhan. The headlines that we're tracking for you this evening. As the Tata Group rift reaches the corridors of power in New Delhi, sources close to the Mistry camp deny allegations of a coup or usurping power. The Mistry camp says differences are about infusing funds into Tata International, Noel Tata's idea to create a position of a deputy MD at Tata Sons, and the opposition to merely Mistry's appointment to the board of Tata Sons. That's an exclusive. The Lal Street snaps a four-day winning streak. The Nifty ends in the red but manages to hold 25,000. The Rupee ends at a record closing low of 88.79 against the dollar. The bullion continues its golden run. Prices cross the $4,000 mark for the first time. Gold prices are up 50% this year. The 15,500 crore rupee Tata Capital IPO is fully subscribed on the last day. The 11,500 crore rupee LG India IPO fully booked on the first day thanks to strong demand. State Bank of India's chairman C.S. Setty says the RBI's expected credit loss rules will have limited impact on the balance sheet. He sees lower risk weights on residential mortgage and SME lending as positive steps that will release capital. British Prime Minister Keir Starmer in Mumbai for his first official visit to India, along with 125 UK business executives. Starmer meets top CEOs in Mumbai, will hold bilateral talks with Prime Minister Modi tomorrow. Andhra Pradesh government approves Google's $10 billion data center in Visakhapatnam, says the project will create nearly 2 lakh jobs and add more than 10,000 crore rupees to the state's GDP annually. Prime Minister Modi inaugurates the first phase of the Navi Mumbai Airport. The first commercial flight is scheduled for mid-December. Bharti Airtel CEO Gopal Vittal says telecom regulations across the world are not keeping pace with technology, says problems go well beyond telecom and extend to the digital ecosystem, claims regulatory overreach is much higher in telecom compared to other sectors. Immigration is the foundation of the American dream, says Nvidia CEO Jensen. Huang promises to bear the additional cost of H-1B visas for his employees, says he expects enhancements to the current visa policy, also rules out talks of a bubble in artificial intelligence. 38-year-old Sergio Gore confirmed as the U.S. ambassador to India, close aide of President Trump. Gore will be the youngest U.S. envoy to India. Malayalam film stars come under the ED scanner. Enforcement Directorate raids 17 locations linked to superstar Mammootty and actors Dulquer Salman and Prithviraj Sukumaran. The probes allege FEMA violations and smuggling of high-end cars. Well, we've got a packed lineup for you, but straight to the day's market action. The Lal Street snapping its four-day winning streak today, and stocks saw some profit booking at higher levels. Nifty ending the day lower, but it did manage to hold above the 25,000 mark. So that's the Nifty for you. Finally closing flat, 62 points lower. The Sensex 153 points lower. The Nifty IT rebounding 1.5% higher today, and the mid-cap index was down by about 4%, 420 points, excuse me. And of course, as far as the IT stocks are concerned, remember, it's the big TCS earnings tomorrow, so the IT stocks up and about ahead of that. Broader markets saw a bigger fall versus the blue chips today. Prices of gold crossing $4,000 for the first time ever. The yellow metal has soared this year. And how? As investors seek a safe haven from uncertainty amidst everything that's happening globally. So safe haven buying, geopolitical uncertainty, the US government shut down, all of that benefiting gold, which has risen 50% this year, with both central banks and retail investors snapping gold at a rapid pace. That's as far as gold is concerned, but even other metals like silver hitting fresh highs, so up and away. But the big CNBC TV 18 exclusive, the top story that we're tracking this evening. Exactly a year after Noel Tata took over as the chairman of Tata Trust, there is a fresh battle brewing at the House of Tatas. Now, the rift has now reached the corridors of power in New Delhi. CNBC TV 18 has accessed both sides of the story. Last night, Noel Tata, the chairman of Tata Trust, N. Chandrasekaran, the chairman of Tata Sons, met with Home Minister Amit Shah and Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman in New Delhi. Tata Trust trustees Venu Srinivasan and Darius Khambata were also part of that meeting. Interestingly, Khambata is being accused of being part of the quartet of trustees allegedly trying to undermine Noel Tata. Now, this latest power struggle comes nearly a decade after that bitter public battle between the late Ratan Tata and the late Cyrus Mistry. Now, sources close to Noel Tata claim that there is a coup attempt by 4 trustees. Here are the trustees: Darius Kambata, Jayatsi Jahangir, Pramit Javeri and Mistry. Now, sources close to Noel Tata allege that these trustees tried to emasculate the leadership of Noel Tata and wanted to function, quote-unquote, as a super board. But sources close to the Mistry quartet deny these allegations. They claim that the coup narrative is false and there is no attempt to usurp powers. The Mistry camp claims a false narrative is being painted to make them look, quote-unquote, like villains. According to sources, there are 3 key flashpoints that have triggered the current escalation of tensions. First is the fund infusion into Tata International. Now, Noel Tata is the chairman of Tata International, and an equity infusion was proposed to help tide over the losses in the company. The company is also saddled with a debt of around 2,000 crore rupees. Eventually, the infusion of 1,000 crore rupees by Tata Sons was cleared, but sources say that the matter, quote-unquote, remains unresolved. Now, another flashpoint is Noel Tata's idea to create a position of a deputy MD at Tata Sons. Sources close to the Mistry quarter say that the proposal also created differences of opinion between the Noel Tata Group and the Mistry quartet. And the third point of contention has to do with Mistry's appointment to the board of Tata Sons. Now, Mistry, a long-time associate of Ratan Tata, his appointment was opposed by Noel Tata, and sources say this also led to a further worsening of the relationships within the trustees. Now, sources tell us that all 4 trustees who are today being accused of acting against Noel Tata had in fact voted in favour of Noel Tata's appointment as chairman just last year. Remember, Noel Tata took charge exactly a year ago on the 10th of October after the demise of Ratan Tata. It must also be noted that the upcoming board meeting on the 10th of October is not going to consider any of these issues at hand. That meeting, we learn, is about the philanthropic activities of the trust, which is really at the heart of what the Tata Trusts do. So 1,000 crore rupees worth of philanthropic activities on the agenda on the October 10th board meeting, nothing to do with this current battle. Now, with the government getting involved, there are hopes of a de-escalation, and both sides will try, that's the hope, and arrive at some sort of a rapprochement to bring the public feud to an end. But we will have to wait to see. But here are some legal experts on the battle that's currently underway within the Tata Group.
As sources report, there was a high-level meeting, shows the attempt is to resolve and nip in the bud and not let things escalate. So I think the key thing at the moment is dialogue, discussion, and perhaps intervention which will smoothen ruffled feathers, because it's far too important, the House of Tatas. It also stands for India, and literally, if I can use the word trust, Tata Trust, known for governance, sort of pride of place as far as global entities are concerned. So I think the key thing at the moment should be to find via media a meeting point so that things don't escalate any further.
I don't think it will have a longer-term impact on the shareholders of the operating entities. As of now, there is no sign that they need to be worried or they need to be nervous at all. Secondly, the operating structure between the Tata Trust, there is an understanding. This was tested at the time Cyrus Mistry was removed. Subsequently, the operating structure was questioned. So I think there is already a template in place between the Tata Trust and the Tata Sons.
There needs to be some kind of a governing structure which they put in place, which allows them a very structured decision-making process. See, you've seen this in the past also. When Ratan Tata came in also, there were these leadership challenges. Noel Tata has come in. There is again a new leadership challenge. Whether we agree to it or not, there is a certain sort of unrest in the trust group, and that cannot bode well. They need to have a solution to it.
Well, and staying with the Tata Trust, 8 years ago, in an interview to CNBC TV18, the late Ratan Tata spoke about the role played by the Tata Trust in the functioning of the Tata Group. He was speaking with Sohail Seth on why the trust structure was created in the first place. Take a look.
Mr. J.R.D. Tata often used to refer to Tatas as being the trustees of the people. The Tata family could have become tremendously wealthy by having distributorships, partnerships, etc. in the businesses. But most of the businesses, whether it was steel, whether it was power, or institutions, were set up as institutions for the country. So Jamshedji Tata could just as well have dedicated Tata Steel to the nation or dedicated Tata Power to the nation. They belong to the shareholders and to the people. Personal ownership and personal wealth happened when it happened, but was never the criteria for these companies to be established. So it was natural that he did leave his ownership to his two sons, and then his two sons, who had no children, left them in charitable trusts as beneficiaries of the companies that they held. So it was a refreshing change that gave way to ownership in an industry not being for the beneficial interest of A or B or C, but for the better good of humanity.
And you can catch more of that interview with the late Ratan Tata at 9:30 p.m. right here on CNBC TV 18. 1 year since he passed. Tata Capital's initial public offering was fully subscribed on the third day of bidding. The subscription was led by strong demand from qualified institutional buyers, followed by non-institutional investors. The 15,500 crore rupee IPO is the largest of 2025 so far and the biggest since we saw the Hyundai Motor India listing in 2024. And more IPOs. LG Electronics IPO continued to see strong interest, being subscribed 332%. The demand was led by non-institutional investors who booked their reserved portion over 7 times. The retail quota was also subscribed by 1.9 times, while qualified institutional buyers, comprising of largely foreign investors, bid for 259% of their allocation. Now, bankers don't see much impact from the Reserve Bank of India's ECL guidelines. Speaking to CNBC TV 18 on the sidelines of the Global FinTech Fest, State Bank of India's chairman C.S. Setty said the norms were in line with expectations and will have a limited impact on the bank's balance sheet. Take a look.
The ECL guidelines are broadly as we expected. Of course, in fact, there are the draft guidelines also I had mentioned in terms of increased provision requirement for stage 2 assets. Stage 1, stage 2 concept is anyways there in the non-banking finance companies, right? Yeah. They move to IFRS. Yeah. This ECL guidelines broadly aligns with the IFRS 9 requirements. And there are a lot of nuances there in the kind of risk weights, what we have to follow, various categories of loans. Yeah. We would be evaluating that.
At a very, very appropriate time, Reserve Bank of India has come out with the ECL implementation now. And the 5 years, the guideline is there, 5 years implementation period is there. And roughly we have calculated both stage 1, 2, 3 and all put together. Yeah. See, if I can talk about our bank, we have the provision coverage ratio of 97%. Yeah. That gives a lot of comfort for us to meet those challenges which is going to come because of the ECL. And rough calculation, we don't see much a challenge in implementation.
Well, bankers there on the ECL guidelines. Now, the Andhra Pradesh government has approved Google's $10 billion investment to establish data centers in Vizag. This is expected to generate nearly 2 lakh jobs and is projected to contribute an average of 10,518 crore rupees to the GSDP annually during the initial 5 years of operation. So that is part of Chandrababu Naidu's plans to draw in investments, Google's big bet on Andhra Pradesh. British Prime Minister Keir Starmer in India for a 2-day visit, accompanied by a delegation of 125 business leaders and entrepreneurs. Starmer and Prime Minister Modi will hold bilateral talks tomorrow. Speaking to business leaders, Starmer said this visit is the biggest trade mission that UK has sent to India. He added that the free trade agreement is very important for the UK and the biggest deal struck by the nation since Brexit.
This is the biggest trade mission that the United Kingdom has ever sent to India. Obviously, this is a two-parter, if you like. We had Prime Minister Modi over to the United Kingdom earlier this year to sign the FTA, the free trade agreement that we agreed, and today is the return leg of that, if you like. That FTA is really important for us. It's the biggest deal that we've struck since we left the EU, and I think it's the biggest deal that India has ever struck.
Well, Keir Starmer in India and Sergio Gore has been officially appointed the next ambassador of the United States to India. Gore is the youngest ever U.S. ambassador to India. He was among the 107 nominees confirmed by the Senate in a single block vote, with 51 senators supporting and 47 opposing. The confirmations have come despite the current government's shutdown. Gore, at 38, is the youngest envoy to India from the U.S. Meanwhile, U.S. Trade Representative Jensen has said that India's purchase of Russian oil is not a bedrock of the Indian economy. Speaking at an event, Greer said, and I quote, India has not always been a major buyer of Russian oil. They have had a strong relationship with Russia. It's really in the past few years that India started buying Russian oil at a discount, end of quote. Greer also clarified that India is a sovereign nation and the U.S. is not dictating to other nations on who they can have relations with. Meanwhile, Commerce Minister Piyush Goyal said that the Indian government is in active dialogue with the Trump administration on trade negotiations. Speaking to Parikshit, Goyal added that India will resolve trade issues with the US in the near future, adding that both nations must respect each other's trade sensitivities.
We're in very active dialogue, and there's a deep understanding of each other. I'm quite confident that we will be able to resolve the issues that are on the table and find the landing zone in the near future. As long as both countries and the negotiators respect each other's sensitivities and agree on a fair and equitable, balanced trade agreement, which will also help to balance trade deficits.
Well, that's the Commerce Minister Piyush Goyal. Indian student visas to the US have dropped by 44% in August, making this the sharpest drop amongst all countries. Overall, international student visas down by 19% on an annual basis, according to the US trade government data. Now, this comes amidst Trump administration's crackdown on immigration as well as H-1B visas. Nvidia CEO Jensen Huang has promised to bear the additional cost of H-1B visas for his employees despite the Trump administration's $100,000 fee for each application. Speaking to CNBC, Huang emphasized on the need for immigration, calling it the foundation of the American dream. He said he expects enhancements to the current visa policy. Huang also ruled out talks of a bubble in artificial intelligence.
Immigration is the foundation of the American dream. This ideal that anyone can come to America and through hard work and some talent be able to build a better future for yourself. My parents came here because of the American dream and wanting us to be able to enjoy the opportunities and this incredible country that is America. And the opportunity for my family and for me to be here would not have been possible with this current policy. And so I'm hoping that there will be enhancements to it. And I think this is just a first step, and President Trump is always pragmatic, and I think that it'll be enhanced over time. What's going on in the world versus what happened in 2000 is just dramatically different. Back then, as you recall, there were pets.com, hospitals.com, and all of the internet companies combined was, what, $30-40 billion in size? If you look at the hyperscalers now, that's where the first tranche of AI infrastructure is building. If you look at the AI, the hyperscalers have about $2.5 trillion of business that's already operating today.
No bubble yet. That's Jensen Huang on AI and more. Up next on India Business Hour, Bharti Airtel CEO Gopal Vittal says telecom regulators across the world are not keeping pace with technology. That and more when we get back. Also catch all of CNBC TV 18's news and updates on Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, X and Geo Hotstar. Subscribe to CNBC TV 18 Access for exclusive stories and special shows like The Editor's Playbook and many others. While Israeli forces continue to bombard Gaza, ceasefire talks in Egypt have entered day 3. Loud explosions were reportedly heard in Gaza City after remotely controlled armored vehicles that were laden with explosives detonated. The Freedom Flotilla Coalition has said that the Israeli military has attacked its convoy boats and intercepted several vessels as they sailed towards Gaza. Russian President Vladimir Putin has said that Russian forces had captured almost 5,000 square kilometers of land in Ukraine in 2025. Russia's 2025 gains would amount to nearly 1% of Ukraine's land area, and the country controls nearly 20% in total. While addressing a meeting with Russian top military commanders on his 73rd birthday, Putin also said that Moscow retained complete strategic initiative on the battlefield. Back home, India Mobile Congress has officially kicked off in the national capital. Top brass from the telecom industry, including Akash Ambani, chairman of Reliance Jio, Sunil Mittal, chairman of Bharti Airtel, present at the event. While inaugurating the summit, the Prime Minister called for data security and sovereignty. Telecom Minister Jyotiraditya Scindia said India's 6G mission could boost GDP by $1.2 trillion in the next 10 years. And Bharti Airtel CEO Gopal Vittal says telecom regulators across the world are not keeping pace with technology. Speaking on the sidelines of the India Mobile Congress, Vittal added that problems go well beyond telecom and extend to the entire digital ecosystem. He claims the regulatory overreach is much higher for telecom network providers compared to other sectors.
I think regulation needs to keep pace with changes in technology, and I feel regulation is not keeping pace with changes in technology. Because most regulators today globally, it's not just in India, are focused on the telco sector, which is a very small part of the surface area of the problems that are being created in trust and security. Because this problem goes well beyond the telecom pipes into the digital ecosystem, which also rides on those telecom pipes. But the regulatory overreach on the telecom sector is much greater than on some of the other areas. So it's like, you know, you have a small part of a ground where there's a lot of action going on, but there's a very large field, which is a Wild West. And I think all of these areas need to be addressed. India is a very, very difficult place to operate in, because the customer is more demanding than the customers in Europe. I can tell you that, right? Just in terms of the quality of the network. You're operating with the lowest ARPUs and the lowest rate per gigabyte, and yet you have to make money, which means you have to operate with a lean model. So I think there's headroom for pricing to go up in India. But that said, I think you just have to be more and more efficient in how you deliver the service, and at the same time start looking at alternate revenue streams, or new revenue streams, which will never compensate for the big flagship, but it will add a little bit.
Well, that's Bharti Airtel's Gopal Vittal. Prime Minister Modi also inaugurated the DB Patil Navi Mumbai International Airport. Today, operations will begin after security checks, which will take about 45 days. The first commercial flight is expected by the middle of December. The airport will have the capacity to handle about 12 flight movements every hour in the initial phase. GST rates on hotel rooms below 7,500 rupees per night have seen a sharp cut from 12% to 5%. But travellers are not seeing a drop in prices yet. Timsy Jaipuri reports that hoteliers say they need certain anomalies to be fixed for the price cuts to be passed on. Take a look.
When Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman and the GST Council slashed the goods and services tax on mid-range hotel rooms to 5%, travellers were looking forward to cheaper stays. But that has not panned out. Hotel operators say they simply can't pass on the benefits because the GST cuts on room priced at below 7,500 rupees a night was accompanied by the removal of input tax credit, and that's eating into their margins. The pinch is harder for online travel agencies who usually buy bulk bookings in advance and then resell them. In a few cases, prices of these rooms have actually increased. Hotels say they are working out to address this issue.
This is not in our control, actually. This is totally in control of the OTAs. But definitely, we will try to find out and what corrective measures can be taken, because we are 100% we are with the government that whatever relief has been given, that should pass on to the consumer.
But that's not the only problem. Industry sources say over 300 hotels have received GST notices for allegedly applying the lower rate when the higher rates should have been applied. Some of these relate to instances where if a room costs under 7,500 rupees per night, but room services bills take the bill amount above the threshold, the authorities say the bill should carry the higher 18% tax rate. Similarly, Some cases refer to instances where rooms are given to customers as part of a banquet booking package, and the claim is that those rooms should have been charged at 18% even if the rent falls below the threshold. The fact that room rates under the 7,500 rupees threshold and food bills attract different GST rates is also a sore point for many customers.
Yes, although this is a very good move of 5%, but now the problem is this: all the hotels, they are not on 18%. Now, if a guest is staying in a hotel where he is getting 5% less than 7,500, he is getting 6,000 rupees room rent and 5%, but his food is 18%. So that is also creating a problem. The guests are objecting that on the rooms it is 5%, but the food is 18%. So we are following up with the government to de-link this food. Food should not be linked with the room rent.
Hotels are also staring at a financial hit since the new GST regime kicked in, because many on them have unclaimed input tax credit. The industry says nearly 8 to 9% of overall turnover remains blocked under this header. The hotel industry is in a tight spot. It is dealing with blocked credits, tax notices, and a lack of clarity on billing rules. And with festival and holiday travel season upon them, many fear businesses will take a hit, because while not lowering prices would hurt demand and hurt their finances, lowering GST rates and taking the hit from the lack of ITC will also hurt their bottom lines. Players hope the government will step in with clarity and necessary corrections, preferably before the tourist season picks up steam. In New Delhi, Timsi Jaipuria.
And with that, it is time for us to wrap up this edition of India Business Hour. Thanks very much for watching. There's plenty that we have lined up for you here on CNBC TV 18, so stay tuned. We're coming right back.